I didn't even know.
Everyone doing? 3.
Hi, good evening everybody. Welcome to the webcast and to the session today. I'm very happy that you've joined us today, and let me just quickly introduce myself and set the context for this 1 hour. So my name is Trishti Bajaj. I'm the area head for product and lifestyle design at Pearl Academy. We've been running this program for a while now, and we run at 3 centers, Bombay, Delhi, Jaipur, and so today the entire session is about understanding what goes on in product and lifestyle design. I have my little cue sheet, so I'll keep taking cues from the sheet because I tend to forget. So pardon me when that happens. So the idea really is today to shed a little bit of light on what is product design, what happens in product design when you're a student, what happens when you go in the industry. I'm going to quickly take a minute to introduce everybody here with me. I'll start with Parminder. Parminder is an accessory designer. He runs a company called Loco Design. And let me read this out. You do furniture, accents, accessory objects, and crafted surfaces, right? So that's quite a large range of interesting things. Niladri runs glue design, and you look at product, retail, exhibition design, production, and project management. So these are quite kind of vast, and when I look at product design, I think it all fits in. So it's a very, very big field. And we have Anmol Gupta, who's an alumni. She graduated last year, and she's had an exciting time.
Yeah.
Thus far, right?
Very exciting.
So I always, usually I thought I'll start with the youngest first. So quickly tell us, how are you feeling now after a year? How do you feel as a designer?
I feel as young as day one. The learning has not stopped. I'm still a student. I feel like every day there's something new to learn.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that the same thing you feel even today after, I mean, what, 20, 30 years? I don't know. I'm ashamed to say how many years it's been.
Yeah, I think that's what keeps us going. I think.
Yeah, the curiosity of it all.
Yeah.
Let's start with the obvious question. What does a product designer really do?
Okay. Our common misconception is that I think the logical thing is engineers make things, right? This is a common thing. Anything that is to be made, engineers must be making this. But if you enter that and you go deeper into that, you realize that engineering is a very specific skill, craft, or a stream, right?
Right.
There are mechanical engineers in mechanical engineers. There are people who do structurals, combustion engines, pipelines. There could be multitude of things. And to produce things, you need engineers, right? So you need skills of many kinds to sort of produce or make a product. So what industrial design really is actually, on one side, understand the need and the behavior of a user or a shopper or a user, I would say. Somebody is going to use, and it is going to be a part of his or her life. Right. And on the other side, all these streams have to come together and solve one problem. So it could be a toothbrush, or like he said, or it could be an automobile. So the product design and industrial design is to visualize what that product will be as per his or her needs, and to follow through in the process using all the skills that are required to take the product to the user. That would imply marketing, sales, all of that. So product design is really the art or the skill or the profession of visualizing a new reality and actually enabling various streams to come together to make it real. That's really what product design is.
Parminder, anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, Niladri works more on the industrial side, so we work more on the crafting side of things.
Yeah.
What I feel is that, crafts have existed for years and years. It's just that how does a person in today's day and time make it relevant for use today? So it's not only one has a take on both sides. There are people who know their needs, and they can voice it. They may not be able to imagine it.
Sure.
So you imagine it for them and create it for them. On the other end of the spectrum, there are things that you can imagine, but people may not have or may not realize the need for it. You create the need for it because there is a product that you've created, which the problem existed. Nobody could really pinpoint in terms of where and how to solve that. And there have been multitude of examples, of those kinds. Simple things like egg trays. It's a simple product. It was never required. Somebody thought of it and just organized the eggs in a tray and put it on the table, and there you are. Everybody needs it.
That's true. So in your current work right now, what is the kind of projects that you're working on? So maybe if you can tell us a little bit about it, so it helps us orient your perspective here.
So our field is really vast. So, but what we keep common is the crafts that we use, or the craftsmanship that we use. So there is a parameter that we draw for ourselves, which is materials that we have learned and can control. It's not that we stop learning materials, we keep learning materials, and as and when we are confident that we can introduce them, we bring them in. So most of the problems that we try and solve are architectural, in terms of whether they are simply aesthetic issues or they are functional issues. So it's really just, you know, bringing interesting things in front of people who need them because they want to create those amazing places or spaces, and always have that one problem as to who's going to make it. So we find that answer for them, and we try and make it. That's the, you know, that's really the really what we try and do.
I mean, I think just the way you're speaking is it just brings so much passion to, I guess, what you're trying to do. And so do you do it for the love of the craft, or for the love of the design, or for the love of, you know, that experience that when a user actually ends up buying your object and using it and loving it, that's kind of like the ultimate satisfaction a designer gets. So where does your kind of
see, I always there's one thing that we always say in the studio, and I've always reiterate to people, is that you need to know for yourself what kind of an emotion do you want a person to emote when he sees your product. Not everybody is the same, not every client is the same, not every client segment is the same. There are clients who feel if they've bought something, they've achieved something in life, which means they've arrived, which means they've got something which they'd always desired or aspired for. There are people who will simply smile when they look at something because they feel that they had always needed it, never could find it, now they found it. It's these little things which make, you know, which make things interesting. It's not you know, if you start with a simple cube, for example, you can create a cube in a million different ways.
Yeah,
but every time and every material that changes will change the perspective of the people who look at it.
That's true.
You know, it's just the way, whether it's a plain white piece of marble, is it wood, is it leather, is it carbon fiber, is it something? Every material emotes something or the other in people's minds. For example, if I say carbon fiber, suddenly people, you know, say, oh my God, that's expensive. That's but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And just because it's expensive and it's not acquirable, people want to acquire it. That is the, you know, that's the emotion.
That's the desire aspect of
exactly.
The
so
users
as long as we are creating those aspirations and we are creating those emotions, it keeps us going. That's the most satisfying bit.
I think I just want to contrast that quickly with the kind of work you do, because for you, a lot of the work is not the end consumer buying it. It's a little larger, like the tile project, where you're actually working with retail spaces, where it is industrial design, but it's for it's not for one particular user. It's for many users. So how does that contrast with what he's saying?
So I think industrial design. I'll come to quick tile, but in our field in industrial design, what I believe is the satisfaction comes from creating value. Now the value, you create different values for different people in the value chain. So let's say, meaning a project where there is an end customer who's getting a new product, the value chain there could be great satisfaction in marketing it in a new way, or somebody seeing it in a different way. So the perception change is there. So, but product design, this is something that I've been talking to a lot of NID and other students as well, is that it has to be measurable. Part of the challenge of design is really getting that satisfaction, because you perceive that you will get, let's say, a financial remuneration or a satisfaction from a user seeing it.
Right.
But if you actually are able to capture how much value, what is the value you want to create in that project, then you are far more likely to be more satisfied in what you do. Just a little story. They did this research on what is the most, in which job are the people most satisfied.
Right.
The research came to engineering. and the reason was that, let's say, as an engineer, I'm given a problem in a day, and I put things together, I manipulate laws of physics, and at the end of it, I mix and match together, and there is an output, desired output that comes.
Right.
I'm happy because I'm able to do the window
You can
between where I
see- you can
start,
realize
I
the-
see the result
yeah, the
right then
impact
and there.
you've had.
Right.
Right.
Whereas in design, in both our spaces of design, because it's not, all of this is not in our control. You know, you're dealing with skills, needs, perceptions of multitude of people. You can get lost in where is the value that you create.
Right.
Right. So it's very critical. Our satisfaction comes from being able to always make sure that we are, for the retailer, this is the value. Are we sure that we are making this value for him? Or let's say for a brand who's advertising, am I creating the value for him? In a manufacturing setup, am I creating value so that it's producing it faster, better, cheaper? The user, of course, at the end of it may know what value he perceives. So, but if we measure it and say, look, this is what we are targeting and we hope to achieve, and even if you, so the satisfaction comes from being able to, constantly trying to better yourself in creating value.
True. I mean, I'm going to take that cue and come to Anmol. Anmol, I remember having this conversation with you when you were still a student that whether you wanted to look at industrial products and make gadgets and kind of make some shiny new objects, as we call it. And I remember having this conversation where you very clearly wanted to change people's lives or have an impact through design.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about what is it that you really sort of what drives you here? Because it is about creating value, but you look at it in a certain way.
So when I was young, whenever I was faced with poverty, I used to have this immense feeling of helplessness and unable to do anything about it in a way that matters. And I was looking for ways where I could find something, a way to make a difference.
Right.
And design is where it came in.
Right.
When I saw some products and I saw how much change it can bring in a person's lives, I was sure that this is the path I wanted to take on.
And you've been working with, you just finished a project with Vihara, and they do a lot of work for social impact and change. And can you quickly, in like one sentence, tell us about what you were doing there? Without giving away the IP right for the project.
So they were looking at kids under 5 who are vulnerable and on the way or for mortality and morbidity. So they were really at-risk children who get sick again and again, and just to we were looking at ways on how to stop that from happening again and again. So that's what we were doing, and that's what I can tell you right now.
I think it's fascinating, just the scope of design. Just within 3 people here, I think there's a lot that's happening. And I think for a lot of students who are planning to pursue design, I think those are one of the questions of what do you actually do, because it's unlike textiles, you know, you sit on a loom and you produce a textile fabric. With product design, it's very, very vast. And here we are looking at product design and we already have 2 pathways in it, one industrial, one accessories. So it's fairly wide. So let's go back to before you were a student in a design college, when you were just thinking of applying to a design college. What made you choose design? Or when did you decide to pursue design? Or was it a happy accident?
I have a very, very strange answer to that. So, basically, I just finished my economics, and you know, supposed to be a very bright student in school, sports and drama and this and that and all of. I mean, I was good at literally everything, and that in a way confused me because I didn't know which way I was going, and I was always very satisfied with myself because you're good at everything. So there's no challenge, and it was and that became at some point a certain kind of a complacency. I never realized it, and I never agreed to it, but it probably existed. Nobody told me that though. And then after graduating, I realized that economics is not something that I wanted to pursue. Before that it was engineering, and before that it was medical, and before that I wanted to be an artist, and before that I wanted to be something else, and it was continuous confusion. And then after graduation, my father pulled my ears and he said, "Do something with your life. You're supposed to be a good student. You have to do something." So I started applying for these MBAs.
Right.
And applied for 40 different institutes. Every Sunday we were giving exams in some part of the country, running up and down and studying like maniacs. And you'd wake up at 4 in the morning, the first thing you do is pick up a book and start, just reading. And then I heard of NIFT, and I was like, what is this? And NIFT had 7 streams. So I had no clue what each one of them meant. I just filled in forms for everyone. I said, I just need to fill the forms. And when I filled the forms, I got into 6 of them.
Wow.
And came for the interviews. And just before coming for the interviews, I used to, every second day, I used to go to the British Library in Ahmedabad. And I walked in, and this lady who used to help me with she was basically the librarian. She saw that I was very confused. She said, what's the problem? I said, see, these are the 6 streams that I have cleared. I have no clue what each one of them is. Fashion, I vaguely understand. And Mithun Chakravarti was a big deal during those days. And so that's what my understanding of
Mithun got you into this.
No, and Sridevi and Jayaprada and all that. That was my understanding of fashion, because that's what we saw. And so she pulled out these books for me from the library, and she made 6 piles for me, and she said, these are
the
people,
6 streams.
yes, 6 streams which can tell you something about each one of them. So when it said garment manufacturing technology, no. Apparel merchandising and marketing, no. So it was, went through all those, and then I reached these 3, which was fashion, textiles and accessories. So what the hell are accessories? What is accessories about? So she just put a book in front of me, which was incidentally Lalik's jewelry.
Wow. Okay.
And I opened the first page, and I just looked at her. I said, "This is what I want to do." So that was how I really got into. And actually, I was studying at MICA before that. I was in Mudra Institute of Communications and Applications. So I was the first dropout of that college, and they were not very happy about it.
But I think this process of elimination is, I think, a good trick for most students who are still trying to figure out what is it that I want to step into. Niladri, how did you how did design trap you? Because it is like that. You get sucked in and you love it, and you never want to leave.
I didn't want to do design.
Oh, really?
I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Wow.
So my mother tore up that form. So this is how my parents have led me to this place. So my mother tore up the NDA form. That was one. Then I wanted to be a doc. My dad's a doc. So I knew I was good at it. It's a doc. He asked me 10 questions. I said, look, you're going to study for 14 years. Whatever your interests have, you're not going to be able to pursue them. So I dropped that. That left either IIT or engineering. At that time, NID wasn't heard of, right? But a friend of one senior of mine had gone, and she sort of pushed a form that I filled. So I gave the test. There's not much time, so I won't go into all of that. But in the interview, I was asked by Pulin Garg, who was a psychologist who consulted with NID and with IIM, that now if you get into IIT and you get into NID, what will you choose? So I bluntly told him it would be IIT. But what happened is the results for NID, by the time I'd seen the campus, I didn't know what product design was, but I had met the seniors, talked to them about the various streams. I knew I would like it. So the telegram was good news for me. So
I think I definitely would encourage all students who are wondering about which college to go to, where to go to, is come to the campus, meet the faculty, meet the students. They're always around. I mean, I can bet all of these can volunteer. These are students from our second year of product design, and they'll be happy to meet anybody. I hope they're still enjoying the program. It's a long way to go. So Anmol, I think you are also from a science background, right?
So
what triggered your foray into design?
I actually wanted to do IT, and I wanted to be a mechanical engineer because I came to know that they can create stuff.
Right.
It was some sort of, but then I saw Pearl's brochure, and then I realized that IT is not something, science is not what I wanted to do, even though I was very good at science.
Okay.
And I came to the campus and I talked with one of the faculty here, and I asked, I got into this in-depth lecture of product, and I knew, yes, this is what I want to do with my life, because this will help me do something.
I think for me the most exciting thing about being in product design is the variety of it all. I never get bored. I mean, there's always so much to learn and do. I've done toys, I've done kitchenware, I've done accessories, I've done I work with craftsmen, I've done furniture, and it really is exciting, and I just kind of feel like it's one of those places where it's hard to put down that this is what I do. I do everything at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody.
It does.
Okay, moving on, I just kind of talking about what we are looking at for young designers. I mean, you're sitting in the industry, for example, a student like Anmol who's just graduated. This is after 4 years of working, and I'm just going to come back to you with your experience being a student for 4 years. I think there's a lot of industry expectations, and I think some of those expectations also pushes us to decide what kind of students we want to bring in to college to study design. So can you talk a little bit about that? What today is design industry expecting of design students?
The industry expects a lot from the design students.
Everything.
But let me, I think I'll speak more from a human angle. Right? I mean, industries may vary, markets may vary. But I think the rate at which the world is changing, you know, in terms of earlier, let's say 10 years ago, there is some skill specialization the industry is looking at. Of course, you're looking at, if you're going to look at a graphic designer, I'm going to look at product designer or whoever. But, you know, I think there is one key capability that actually I think across industry people are looking at. It's really the person, and looking at that person and saying, is that person curious? If you have that curiosity to question why this happens or to find out more about that, I think that's the quality that I'm looking at from anybody who wants to join or come and work with, or as a student. That is the only qualification that is needed. Because if you have that curiosity, I think then you come to the second part. If you don't have the curiosity, you're already shut at that, you're not coming in your life as such. And the second part is, how driven are you to satisfy your curiosity? So a lot of people, when pushed or challenged, may back off, saying it's too difficult or it can't be done. And the second quality, in some way, if you figure out that there is a bit of a perseverance there. So two qualities, curiosity and the drive to make it happen.
Make it happen.
If
to deliver the...
That's what the industry looks at, whatever be the case. I think if anybody wants to join the industry, these are two qualities that normal CVs you can't really write. And but I think that's what people want to
do you have a different take on it, Parminder?
No, it's very similar, but it's just, I'm just going to add one thing to it, which is, you know, after the curiosity, it's is that person willing to do the R&D, learn something out of it, and apply it. The application bit is as important as, you know, because you couldn't be doing the R&D endlessly. You know, there is, you know, our world moves at such a fast pace that everybody wants answers yesterday. It's not, you know, there's no tomorrow anymore. The expectations are huge. In today's day and time, knowledge is available. It's not,
that's true.
You know, there was a point in time when you had to read through, and you know, and you had to go to the libraries and talk to people and do your researches and all of that. In today's day and time, everything is available to you. It is, what are you going to do with that knowledge? If you can't apply it, if you can't use it, then there's no point.
Translating that information into knowledge, essentially, because information is available, but how do you
well, it is, I would say even the next step, even knowledge is available to you, because you can always, you know, there is always people that you can talk to, like we were talking about it earlier. There are people who are willing to help you with literally anything that you want to know. It's you know, they're all there. It's just once you've gotten that knowledge, are you firstly willing to apply it? And also, are you willing to grow as you, as in the industry? There are, in olden times we used to have a saying called "little knowledge is dangerous," and I used to always wonder as to how can that be? In today's day and time, I realize that little knowledge is seriously dangerous. If if people if they have a certain amount of knowledge and they get complacent about it, and they feel that this is my domain and this is my specialism, they are over, they're finished.
I mean, it's interesting that both of you are talking about very sort of holistic sort of traits, because a lot of times what happens is when a student comes to us before entering, we say, do we need maths? Do we need science to be a product designer? And here we're talking that actually that's not, more importantly, it's not more importantly, it's things like curiosity, empathy, being able to apply yourself, and a certain sort of awareness of the world. I was horrible at maths, and if maths was a limitation, I would have.
In Finland, is the leader by far, generations ahead of all the other education, America, Europe, in terms of education thinking, research. They are doing away with subjects.
Yeah, that's true. No subjects at all.
No subjects. Even if you go, let's say you go to America, and even if it's not like the Indian curriculum needs to change dramatically, because it's not math. So it's really problem solving.
It's problem solving.
And the fact is, let's say what I'm looking for in a guy is problem solving ability.
Yeah.
Well, the fact is it doesn't matter whether you like maths, physics or not. But the fact is, if you want, let's say, a container and it's too hot to hold, and you have to cool it, you'll figure a way out.
Yeah.
So it's a problem solving capability, which. So I was just trying to add something to it, that when you come out of an institute, you come out with a set of basics, the process.
Yeah.
You know the process, right? You're coming out eager, you're curious. So that is given. When you start working, your confidence in your ability to execute starts to happen. So your instincts become
sharper,
more honed. You realize where you're wrong, you realize instinctively. So the rest of the career is really about realizing yourself from an execution perspective, if you really want to call it that. And anybody who's looking at this and saying, look, do I have to do maths, physics? I'm not good at maths. All right, so can I be an industrial designer? Of course you can. Of course you can, because what you need to do is to problem solve. And even if it came to, let's say, even if it came to a technical problem of increasing the output of an engine, I'm not the best guy for it. I'll talk to a specialist who will, and if that person can't explain it to me simply, then the person doesn't know his job. So everything in life, meaning for me, the approach is, if it cannot be explained to me simply, then I haven't learnt it as of now. Or if I can't explain it simply, then I don't know it. So it's not really professions, it's really about that, meaning it's really reverting back to how we are born. Naturally, we were born curious, and then our education system somewhat sort of takes it away from you.
So this is a fantastic moment for me to come in and talk about how design education sort of tries to build that back.
Build exactly what it does.
Because in a 4-year program, and this is where I want to bring Anmol in, you do really go through a process and a rigor that does broaden your horizon. The idea of how to be curious about things, how do you discover something and take it forward and build on it. I mean, the reason why I wanted to bring you in is you're still fresh from
fresh out of college.
So how do you think what they're saying is something that's happened to you over the 4 years, or did it happen or did it not happen? I don't know.
What they're saying about the problem solving ability, it's really true, and the skills that we learn here, they just make it easier to understand. So if I have a thought and I want to tell that thought to somebody else, it's really very easy when I sketch it out. If I want to make something and I can show the vendor the models, it will be very, very easy. And so the projects that we work on really in college, we got to know this ability to just convey what we want to do. First thing, curiosity is important, and then how to use that curiosity to apply it. And that's how we learn and just make those models, do our work, do our research, do our homework, and then create the solution of the problem.
So I mean, a lot of students also come and say, well, do you need to be a good artist or a good sketcher to do product design? And I think my answer has always been that you should have the ability, or you should have the desire to learn. The rest we'll teach you.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's software, whether it's sketching, whether it's working with materials, craft. I mean, this is all part of a design curriculum, and it does really shape you up into something that can be a person who can problem solve. So in terms of employability for a student graduating, do you think having a degree is important? Because that's one of those questions that come up that, you know, I need to have a degree to get a job.
Look, it's...
is that what the industry looks at?
See, the industry is inundated with inquiries, right?
Yeah.
So what is the filter, right? Meaning you can't have an application saying, I love to do this, you know, so that's it. So you have to filter it. So from that, a degree, a diploma or something filters it to say, look, I've got a diploma or degree in industrial design from this college, so from 5,000 applications at least you're getting 300.
So somebody who's been trained in that field.
It definitely is some, meaning, look, education is important, meaning the degree may not be.
Yeah.
You understand the difference. Meaning I may study for 4 years industrial design, I may not.
Nothing.
Exactly. Meaning, I'm assuming, I'm looking at the bright side, but I've learnt it. So lot of very successful people I know have dropped out in the last year, or 3 years into that they've dropped out, but they're highly, look at some jobs and, you know,
Yeah,
lots
they're
of
all
people,
dropouts.
they're all dropouts. So it's nice to say, well, the degree is not important, everybody can go and do this. Well, everybody can't. You need to learn that skill, and
So,
then you
know,
practice it.
So what you're saying is the degree with respect to having an educational background, and not so much the certificate of a degree.
Yeah,
I just want to make that distinction, because there are a lot of colleges that may not offer a degree but a diploma, and but as long as I think what you're learning is relevant, and the
for
portfolio
instance,
that you build.
NID's given us a degree in retrospect, because when we graduated we got a diploma. It only
So did
translated
we,
later.
yeah.
So it only.
I don't think I still have a degree actually.
Same here.
Yeah.
So see, I don't think you should get a job.
Yeah. So portfolio, I think what hopefully happens in the 4 years is that you build a portfolio. You build a portfolio of work that shows the interest, the fields that you want to go in, and hopefully it also translates to the industry. What is the kind of person that you are? What are your interests? What are your skills? And I think that's what most people look at. The first thing they ask for is not the CV but the portfolio, because that tells a lot about who that person really is. Now let's look at, let's say, design industry today in India. Where does it stand? How does it compare to, we always talk about, you know, the UK and the US as, or Europe rather, as design leaders. Where is India today? Are there enough jobs for people? Because a lot of these guys also ask, will we get a job? And I'm like, today we have more jobs than students, because we get inquiries for students all the time. We don't have enough students, more jobs than students. That's never happened before. So what is this sort of phase of industry we're in design in India?
See, I think it's also what has happened is that in the last 5 to 7 years, maybe, suddenly the industry has woken up to various applications for people, and they realize that it's not. They need people who will solve their problems without the heads sitting in a board of on a board in a meeting, saying that this is the way it's going to get done. You need experts in every field in today's time. I mean, in the studio today, for example, we have architects, graphic designers, we have product designers, simple technicians who people may call them AutoCAD operators, but we've trained them to start thinking. Right. So the institute never taught them how to think; they just taught them how to draw. And when they came to us, they would come and say, "We are designers," and you said, "No, right now you're only a technician.
Yeah.
You'll become a designer at some point in time if you apply yourself and not the tool that you have." So it is. It's this whole thing of, and that's exactly where the industry is. The word design is hugely misunderstood. in the country, and that has led for a lot of students to misunderstand it. But at the same time, everybody's confused, but they all need it. Everybody in the industry in today's day and time needs it. You need, the beauty of the whole situation is that we don't know what is going to be the requirement tomorrow, because there are new things happening, avenues opening which never really existed. If I told you when you were in college to become an interface designer, you would say, you know what, it's not, it doesn't sound very exciting. At our times, even saying a product designer was like, so what am I going to really do? Who's going to pay me? Why is the guy going to pay me? Because I will draw an ironing board, So these questions arise, and they vary from time to time. In today's day and time, I think there's a need for design in every aspect.
I think next 25 years, next 25 to 50 years, the next generation, it's really about two spheres. One is the creative space, which is really design and liberal arts. It's essentially the areas wherever automation can't happen, wherever the jobs will remain, where automation will not be able to do it over. So, creative design, don't worry about jobs. Meaning there are too many jobs. Meaning it may not be the job you want, but the fact is, for the next 15-20 years, design as a career is a no-brainer. Meaning it's literally.
It's interesting you said automation, because I want to read this out to you. So the World Economic Forum said that one of the top skills that will be in demand in 2020 is creativity. This will occur because a lot of monotonous jobs will be automated, and creative jobs still require human ability to think and problem solve and strategize and come up with something which is imaginative, which AI hasn't got there yet. So it's a very optimistic space, I think, for most people, at least willing to be in design. I think what I would maybe ask here is that a lot of students are still kind of on the fence to take design or not take design. Is it for them or is it not for them? How would you, what advice would you would give them?
Very simple. Take the year off, work in 3 design firms, and work in the other option that you're thinking of. If you want to be a doc or a vet or whatever, go work there for 3 months, go work there in designers, and that's the best way to decide. Look, meaning life, you can sit on the fence. If you're a fence sitter, you will sit on the fence. But the only way for you to do that is to get into it, right? Meaning and design is also not something that once you sign up for, that you'll have to keep doing. If you don't enjoy it 2 years into the profession, change it. Become an entrepreneur. Set up a supermarket. You could do many things. So it's we tend to think that it's a life and death decision. It's not a life and death decision. It's a more creative satisfaction. It's a satisfaction-based decision. So, and that only comes from exploration. So go to 3, 4, 5 places. You will see a variety of things. And then
I think today with a lot of information already available online, I would suggest students look at websites, go to their websites, have a look, go visit exhibitions, look at books. There are lots and lots and lots of books on product design. Flip through them, and they're available in most bookshops. So I don't think today you have to really search and for
actually,
finding it.
we forgot a very basic thing. All you have to do is to go to Google and YouTube.
Go to Google and YouTube.
YouTube videos.
Yeah.
You can spend
lots
2
and lots
weeks
of them.
and see 200 videos. At the end of it, you'll figure out what you want to do.
There's a very interesting book that a friend of mine gifted me. It's called The Rise of the DEO. And it basically explains how creative people are now at the helm of so many different companies where decision making is of prime importance. It's not number crunching. Wherever decision making is important, the people who have been trained to think about problem solving are at the
enterprises,
top. At the top.
Design-led thinking is now the buzzword.
We may say that Jobs dropped out of college. The reality is he already knew what he wanted to do. And that curiosity, like Niladri put, was enough for him to be driven to find that one person who could do,
Yeah.
like Wozniak. And then there were guys who were designing hardwares and softwares, and it all came together. But he knew what he wanted to do. He just wanted to put that one box on everybody's table, which was, which anybody and everybody could use.
Yeah.
And because he already knew it, nobody could educate him about that. So it's
So Anmol, I mean, I'd like to sort of kind of bring this back to you, because I think as students they need to hear from a ex-design student. So in your experience over the 4 years,
Yeah.
People often wonder, what am I going to do? What are the 4 years going to be about? So can you, before we close, quickly tell us what happened in the 4 years? So they've given the form, they've agreed to come, and they're convinced after listening to the two of them. They want to do design, they sign up. What should they expect for the next 4 years?
The first year is the most important and the most amazing. It's called foundation, and it's really is a foundation. You learn sketching, you learn the softwares, you learn how to think, you do all the creative stuff that you have always heard about, and you understand and you build things. And then after that, you begin to, after that first year is over, you get an idea of where you're supposed to go. So then slowly the streams will come in. So the fashion design people will start to sew. The product designers like us will start to meddle with materials. Even the graphic designers will go to their 2D websites and rendering. And so as you come into the second year, you are now sure of what you want, what stream you want to choose.
Sure.
And then you start learning the specific skills of that stream. After that, the projects that you're given are so varied. Like a project is about health and wellness, or a project is about urban space. It's totally different, and it allows you to know what is it that you want to specialize in later on.
Right.
So the hope is by the end, like with me, I figured out what I really was passionate about with my graduation project, and I designed something which helps women. Health, it looks over their health, it helps them collect cow dung. So I'm really proud of what the process, the design is all about the process, and if you know the process, if you love the process, it'll all work out for you.
I mean, you had a lot of opportunities as well. I know you went for the exchange program, so you actually got an opportunity to work with students there. Your work got exhibited in the Dubai Design Week. What was that like, exhibiting your work with like all people from around the world? There were about 55 countries, right?
55 countries and 200 students, 200 top graduate students from around the world showcasing their work. And when I went there, I realized that the language of design is same. Everyone is trying to solve problems and create something for the future, for the progress. And through this, we are all looking forward a better world. That's the common goal.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah, I think we all agree. I think a lot of us come into design to explore many more things, and I think definitely making a better world, a more functional world, a well-designed world is our hope. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody. Thank you for your time, for staying with us, and I hope that the audience there kind of enjoyed. Please post your questions if you still can, and we'll try and answer them. But thank you very much for joining with us.
Thank you.
Good evening.